very bad bill. This is a very bad bill.
It just irritates me that nobody knew about this. I mean, when was the first time that you heard about this?
Well, nobody heard about this.
Yeah, nobody heard about it.
And that's the way the legislature is doing business now, and that's what's getting everybody upset. They do this to all of their bills.
Exactly. So
sneaking things through.
We're trying to stop this, but we were pretty much just told by Ron that you can't stop this, at least for a while. Maybe we're gonna have to force that bill through. But this is all about quickening the process of development and upgrades, as he was saying. So it's like, if this is just one bill, imagine if there's something that we don't agree with that they're building. This is only going to quicken the process that it gets through everything. So per se, there's something that the public does not agree with. In my eyes, it's only going to make it harder for us to protest more development. So I don't agree with it.
I think this is a perfect bill where the public now needs. I mean, I've never seen the public get so worked up, and I've never seen the public get so educated so fast on something that the government was hiding. This is great.
Yeah, hiding.
Yeah, they were hiding this thing, so now that's why everybody is mad also, because they were hiding this, and that's the new way that government is operating. So what we should do right now is make this the watershed and just demand that come next year there's a bill that repeals this law. This should be something that we should all jump on and say, no, this thing got to, coaches, you're going to have to repeal this law.
Straight up.
This is so, this is in your face, black and white, bad bill.
If you ask the public, do they support this? I guarantee 90% of the public will say no. And It's their job to be supporting the public, the people. Okay. And if you're not supporting that, then what are you in office for?
So the public's got to realize that nothing is free. If we don't demand from your senators, if you don't demand, they're not going to do anything. They're going to say, okay, people are going to forget. Come January, this thing is going to be forgotten, and we'll just ride this storm, and we'll get what we get in the end. And that's the way it works. But if we keep yelling at them, if we keep demanding come the next legislative session, and everybody's there telling them, you repeal this thing, it's going to get repealed. But if we stop grumbling, if we only grumble, if we don't push these guys to do something, then nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
So we got to push. We got the support of everybody in the state on this one.
So what was the vote on it? Do you know how many people were in favor, how many were against?
There's probably, you can count on one hand how many guys voted against this bill. Everybody was supporting it.
There's just one senator that voted against it.
Just one. Who was it?
That was Leslie Hara, I believe.
And everybody else we had
23 to 1.
Wow.
So I don't think any of them realized what was going to happen the following year, where they put all of these exemptions and they give the governor all these powers over our land where they can just do whatever they want and partner up with all these corporations so that we can make some money out of all of our private land, our public land.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing got out of control because of greed. And I think I really enjoy what's going on. I've never seen so much anger. You should have seen our meeting last night. God, things were flying around the place. They were tearing up things, throwing things. People were just angry at this thing. How dare them take our public lands and just give it to the corporations like this without us knowing.
And try to sneak it under our noses like that. It's just...
this is outrageous, and we shouldn't stand for this.
Is there any senator or I think it would have to come from the House of Representatives, right? A bill has to come from the House of Representatives. Is there anybody willing to stand up against this?
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to have to demand. It can come from the Senate. It can come from the House. It can come from anywhere. All we need is a law, is a bill that says we're going to repeal this and see who's going to support it and who's not.
So
I'll tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of changing of the votes if somebody's brave enough to at least put the bill out there.
Well, you know what? This is a pretty interesting thing because we've already had our primary. I got a little bit of wind of this maybe a week or two ago, and then it was something that Bronson Kalipi from your island had just put on Facebook that really caught my attention. This is already after the primary, right? And most of these people are running unopposed. So then it's 4 more years or 6 more years or 2 more years before that they're really going to feel any heat from this?
No, well, the heat has to come come January at the legislature.
But if they're already just elected, why are they going to care?
Because people are going to be yelling and screaming at them, and that's how the system is going to work. Because they want to get elected next time. So this is a good chance for people power to come to the front. Do we have people power in this state, or do people just grumble and do nothing?
And this is a perfect example to see.
Yeah.
Are we going to step up to the plate, or are we just going to sit while another legislative act that takes away everything we cherish?
Well, I will tell you, when this came to my attention, the most yesterday, I was like, I don't like to be speaking out on the air when I don't have really strong mana'o on an issue. So I called around for a handful of people whom I really respect. They tend to have a lot of knowledge on public policy, and they were all pretty accurate and said, this caught me by surprise. I'm not going to mention names, but these are our community leaders. They're not elected leaders, but very few people were really very aware of much of this at all. And so we have this meeting just this coming Friday, trying to bring it up so that we get more people to come forward. But it's a David and Goliath challenge, and it's very, very frustrating.
Well, I have a slightly different view of the whole thing. I've been involved in all kinds of stuff this year.
Okay.
And we got civic clubs, we got Sierra clubs, we got all kinds of clubs. Just went to the hearings tomorrow on Oahu. There's going to be pickets. There's going to be all kinds of stuff going on. There's petitions going on. And this is like, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, all of this stuff started hitting the fan. And I've never seen anything like this. This is going to be something that's going to really hit the fan. I mean, I don't see how these guys are going to take this heat. If the people back off, then they're going to get away with it. But there's a momentum, and if we can just keep that momentum to go beyond grumbling, to actually be people doing things, doing stuff, writing letters, talking to their guys, coming to the legislature, whatever it's going to take. Because this thing is a symptom. This is like just the tip of the iceberg of what's happening at the legislature. And if we don't do something, then we're gonna deserve what we're gonna get, and that's all of our resources getting put to corporations.
Well, I thank you for coming on the air to share your mana'o on this. I hope everybody's hearing. It's always sorry for me to hear that what it takes is basically throwing a collective temper tantrum. That's what I feel like I'm hearing. Can we do it? Probably, possibly. It's a hard way to live life. It's nice to be joyful and be able to be working on solutions rather than battling.
Well, every once in a while, you're going to have to stand up and say no. And that's life.
That's right.
You have to stand up and say no every once in a while. Otherwise, you're not going to get what you think you're supposed to be getting.
That's right. Well, thank you. I've got all our lines lit up. People care very much about this, so I'm going to take some other calls, but we're really happy to have you on the air.
Well, thank you for taking on this issue. Great.
Okay, thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha. Thank you for holding. You're on the air.
Okay. So this sounds like Agenda 21 coming to town in a freight car. Hello?
You're on.
Oh, good. And it has, Agenda 21 has so many different things, and it's being put out all in every country of the world. And so people should educate themselves of Agenda 21 and read the rules about land use and all of these things that have all different names as they're, and they.
So can you tell people I know what Agenda 21 is, but can you help the listener who does not know what Agenda 21 is?
Yeah, it's a United Nations plan for the world, and it's being implemented in all different kinds of ways, and the end result isn't very pretty, and that's what you need to look at of what the map of the future is for us. And it's not being able to even walk on these properties, these acreage. Even on the mainland, they're stopping access to publicly owned lands and taking out bridges and stuff.
Right. It's like a forceful restructuring of our resources.
A forceful restructuring
of our zoning, all of that. I want to tell
the good news. if there is any, is that there are places, city councils in remote places, and I think one Santa Cruz, which isn't that remote, but little places, little counties, and one state legislature who has rejected Agenda 21 in all of their working.
I have seen that. Now I want to tell the listener, you're listening to KKCR Honolulu, KAQA Kilauea, and we are discussing the Public Land Development Corporation, and there is a public meeting on this tomorrow from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Wilcox Cafeteria. Excuse me, Friday. It's at Friday at Wilcox Cafeteria. August 31st.
The meeting?
Yeah.
Meeting's on Friday, August 31st, Wilcox Cafeteria.
Yeah.
And this is something that, like Walter says, is going viral, and it's something that requires a bit more thinking on our part, more thinking on our legislators' part. I mean, when I see the kind of reaction that has been triggered in the last 4 days, I'm just amazed. It's something that wasn't expected to happen, but it's something that the people have just gravitated around. And Friday's the last public hearing. That's going to be on
That's
Kauai.
right. And tomorrow, Wednesday, it's on Punch Bowl Street at the Department of Land and Natural Resources. We have a handful of other callers.
Okay, I'll call back for that.
And we'll be putting them on the air. Aloha, you're on the air.
Hi, just a very quick comment.
Uh-huh.
First of all, big mahalo to Walter, and a big mahalo to you guys. This is a really, really great show, and it's something that we can as a community we can grab onto. But just a real quick comment is, one thing that Walter mentioned was the kind of pilikia that we could create for the legislatures that are out there. One thing that has happened nationwide many, many times is we could have a recall election just on this one issue. And if it was a vote of 23-1, my goodness, there might be 23 seats out there that might have a problem on a recall basis. So that's just an idea.
Well, I mean, that's an idea. And you don't have to get off the line right yet on that. I mean, the challenge is, I'm not discounting that. I know for myself, I really, really like to work in unity. I like to be working on solutions. It's hard for me to champion a fight. And I really, actually, for anybody out there listening that is one of our legislators, please come forward and help us, because this would be way better if we could be working on this in the positive. So,
well, as a community, when I'm saying the Kauai community, we became very proactive with the Lingle Ferry, and I'm one of the local guys who got on the surfboard and sat out there, in the harbor. And there was many, many brothers and sisters who did the same thing. And I love what Walter was saying. We just need to kind of step up to the plate and get real proactive with this particular issue. And, those are my comments.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, and thank you guys so much. Huh?
All right.
Bye-bye.
We had a call. Somebody wanted to clarify. You guys were talking about Wilcox schools, and they wanted to make sure that nobody thought it was Wilcox Hospital Cafeteria.
Oh, yes. The cafeteria, that's great. And I have to say, the cafeteria at Wilcox Hospital, they got delicious food. But this is Wilcox School. I'll sometimes even just eat at the hospital when I'm in Lihui and I'm hungry. Good value. We've got another caller. You're on the air.
Hi. I just wanted to clarify the comment about recall.
Okay.
I've looked into that, and there is no constitutional provision for recall in Hawaii. I don't know. I'm sure a lawyer could probably dig deeper and find something that would work, but I think that those are the alternatives, that the only ones that we have at this point to start looking into. And I also realize, and everybody else should realize too, that the mayor has to sign off on this for the island of Kauai. Mayor Carvalho has to give his consent.
Is that right? And has he given that consent?
I don't know. I really don't know. But the thing is, when people do go to this hearing on Friday, regardless of what these dictators say about only commenting on the rules, people go there because this is their public hearing, okay, their public hearing that they are entitled to, and they say whatever is on their mind. They say anything they want. Okay, that's the purpose of a public hearing. They cannot tell you what to say.
Right. They can try and control the meeting. It sounds like in these other islands they did not, and maybe that is what needs to happen.
And I would also suggest that people do not comment specifically on the rules. Do not, because it's more or less tacit consent when you go into their game and you start playing their game. Repeal and abolish this act, and that's all that people need to focus on, is how to do that. And most importantly, this governor needs to be impeached, because the PLDC is not going around with proposals. They have already started acting on this. Therefore, Abercrombie and these legislators are already in breach of fiduciary trust. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
You're on the air. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? You're on the air.
Oh, thank you. I just had one question. I agree with pretty much everything everyone has said, and we are probably going to have to scream and yell and jump in the water if we have to. But we did that before, and it worked. The question is now, I remember reading in the paper the other day, I don't know what it was in connection with, but Linda Lingle is now a realtor, if she wasn't before. And somebody had asked a question earlier saying, who was the realtor involved? And I just wondered if it was her. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah, that would be interesting. I would have to imagine that, that's... that would be such a conflict of interest when she's running for...
I understand. I don't think she really is, but if I found out she was, I mean, I would have to vote to get rid of Abercrombie and Lingle and get her out of the state.
Well,
but she's like a virus.
Well, thank you for sharing your mana'o on that. Okay, you. I've got lines lit up.
Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Aloha, you're on the air.
Hi, I just had one question that I still don't understand. Why do we need to have two governments, and why won't they just leave?
Teddy, can you take that?
Why do we have two governments?
And why won't Abercrombie and why won't all of that just leave? Why don't they just go away?
The state government? You mean you're talking about the Hawaiian national government versus, I mean,
well,
is
I
that
don't understand what we still need a state government for.
I mean, is this a serious question, or, I mean, like, it's a very...
No, this is dead serious from the bottom of my heart.
Okay, and so, if we want to look at it from the indigenous Hawaiian perspective, or I should say the Hawaiian national perspective, I believe that they consider Hawaii an occupied nation. So if you look at the circumstances of other occupied nations in the world, and there are very many of them, they don't always have a choice. Whether, like, for example, Taiwan, they don't want, or Tibet. Tibet doesn't want to have China in there, but China is in there. Taiwan has managed to hold their own. China feels like Taiwan belongs to them. This is a human condition issue. And actually, all of this that we're speaking about, it bleeds over into many national and international issues. This is people wanting to take power over a piece of land that is very, very common, whether it's an individual or a country or an element of the government. We all want to be able to control things. Right, I actually shouldn't put it quite that personal, but because it's not actually true. I don't want to control my neighbor's land. But
Tibet and China is a perfect example.
Tibet, yeah.
And I thank you for that, because to us it's not just land.
Right, it's your culture, it's everything.
Yeah.
I give the example sometimes for people who don't understand. This was something that came to my own mind, is if Hawaii was traded away for debt, if, say, we were given away to China, that would be so profound for everybody who lives here. And if that happened, if Chinese became, or Mandarin became our main language, and our street names all changed, and all our culture changed, we were allowed to stay, but we had to shift our identity, we had to shift our calendar. That is on a par with what I understand happened for the Hawaiian people. Does that sound close?
Yeah, and it hurt.
Yes. Yes. And I hear you, and I am sorry.
Well,
I think that in some places they don't even consider us a race anymore, a nationality. They don't even recognize us as a people because of what the United States has done.
That's happened in the United States of America.
Yeah, and you know, really, I grew up in the Four Corners area. That would be Arizona, Colorado, Nevada, Utah, and there are plenty of indigenous people there, and they are very fully their own people group, and it is equally challenging, traumatic. You know, it's unfortunately it happens everywhere, and I want to speak to being somebody who's born into the occupier. It's not easy for us to know how to do it, and also just on the other end of that, when people say, you know, go back to where you're from, well, where is that? You know, where is that? It's hard to know. Is that Sicily? Is it Ireland? You know, I mean, where is that? You know, we at some point.
How do you think we feel when people say that to us?
Well, I mean, like living here, people will say, go back. And then you want to think, well, where is back? You know, I mean, at some level, we're all human beings, and we all need to, you know, find respect for each other. So I'm just saying it's not simple, even on the side of being one of those that's part of the eclipsing culture. For the Native Americans, for the indigenous Hawaiian people, it's a human condition issue, and I am honoring what you're saying. I don't know if that helps at all. I do have a bunch of calls holding. Is there a thought that you would like to leave us with?
No. I'm disgusted enough, thank you.
Well,
Okay.
aloha. Thank you for calling.
Much love and aloha and blessings.
Aloha to you too. Thank you.
Aloha, you're on the air.
Hi, aloha. I just wanted to share one little analogy with, you know, to clarify for some people about the title of the land, about, about the theft of the land. That the analogy is if my grandfather stole your grandfather's cherry 1957 Chevy, and they both passed away, and you're walking down the street, you see your grandfather's Chevy in my driveway. Now, I inherited the car, but you still inherited the title for it. You got the paper in your hand that says it's yours, but I got the car in my driveway. Whose car is it?
Perfect analogy. Like it.
The American adage is possession's 9/10 of the law, which doesn't make it right. Which doesn't make it right.
The Hawaiian nation still got the pala pala.
That's
still got
right.
The paperwork. Right on. God bless you guys.
Hey, great analogy. Thank you for calling. Aloha.
So, Teddy, what do you think?
Well, I think this is something that wasn't expected. You know, and I really I have a lot of respect for our state delegation, Representatives Kawakami Togioka and Morikawa and Senator Kochi, and I wouldn't work to have them removed because I think they do a good job, but you know, I'd like to speak with each and say, what can we do about this? Because it's obvious that there's more con than pro. And how can we work together to do this? I mean, I would hate to see us having to go through a whole slate of legislators, because I don't think you could replace the ones we have with the kind, the quality of the ones we have with what you've, outside. But this is definitely a big problem, and I see it, from being on the community side and going after our culture and historic preservation. I see it as, they can come in and just swoop, read the paper. It doesn't specify exactly what they can do. How does one guy get vested rights when he doesn't have to go through what everybody else does? To me, it's like open shut case for an attorney to come in there and say, hey, listen, man, my guy deserves the same kind of treatment that this guy gets.
Mm-hmm. And then even that begs, for me, a really big issue. It's a challenge actually all the way down to the American system, is why must everything be a commodity? That's what I keep feeling through this, hearing this whole justification for it. If we can't afford our parks, maybe we don't need to have our parks, but that's different than selling or repurposing our parks for an exploited commercial use.
Well, that's where your priority, it's where the priorities lie. And I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Do you have a Facebook?
This is my personal views. If Oahu doesn't have enough electricity, why do they need it from somewhere else?
Right. We need to live within our own kuleana. We need to live within our own area of management. And if we can't get our finances worked out right, we don't do it by selling off the land.
I made a comment to you about a guy asking me, because of the rain that we were having in Kolo this morning. He was a visitor, and he said, how do Hawaiians describe too much rain? I said, they had no description for it. They had no word for it. Because the opposite of that is too little. And when you live in the most isolated archipelago in the world, it matters that you make do with what you got. Because, back in the days of our kupuna, there wasn't Matson or United Airlines.
That's right. We had a culture here, and I can say we because I do feel like I identify with what's here. This island has had a history of being very self-reliant. We have a number of more calls, so I'm going to take this. Aloha, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Felicia. I just wanted to call in something that came to mind when I listened to people calling, and something you said about it's hard to bring up a fight or to bring a fight to something. I think something we can all do when we go to this meeting and we go to voice our concerns about this issue is to come because we're angry, but to control that anger and to try and remember that these people we're making these pleas to are people that have just gotten too greedy or too caught up or forgotten the good things. And, by coming angry, I think sometimes we lose our argument and we don't get our point across. But if we come and try to appeal to these people, and really reach out to them on a human level, these are beautiful places, and to cut off access to the people who love them, the people who live here, is a terrible thing to do, and that can't happen. And I just hope that we can all get our point across. And so I would appeal to everyone to come out and be passionate, but to try and appeal to the greater humanity of these people, and to know that you can come and be passionate and not come looking for a fight or to be so enraged that you don't get your point across,
And I am largely in agreement with that, and sometimes there is a place for righteous anger. And so I think what I'm in so much agreement with you for is that people have higher credibility when they hold their calm, and they have a very well thought out story that they're able to present their position clearly and unequivocally. And I think this particular topic seems to really lend itself to many, many arguments against it. So they're going to try and narrow people down. So if you allow yourself to be narrowed down as much, that's what I'm hearing, these people who've gone through the ordeal of going to these meetings, and when the people seem indifferent. I know for myself, when I look at somebody who's not even listening or they're writing, it's very discouraging. So we will hope that they do a better job than that, and we encourage people to be able to come out. But yes, I in alignment with what Teddy was saying too, is finding the best in people and working from there, but working tirelessly. And so thank you for calling. We've got more people lined up, so we appreciate you. Thank you.
Powers of the new state agency.
Aloha, you're on the air.
Passed through the 2011 state legislature with astounding speed, but little public fanfare.
Okay,
Act
can you speak
55
directly
created
into
the
your
Public
phone?
Land
It's very
Development
muffled.
Corporation and was hailed by Governor Neil Abercrombie.
Legislatively, I believe I now have the power, legislatively, to be able to act in concert with you.
Speaking before a room of supporters during this Democratic Party convention in Kona that year, the governor explained just how important the new agency will be in terms of his New Day in Hawaii platform.
We're not going to be going through all kinds of separate departmental silos any longer for permits and all the rest of it that takes place, all of the things that can get in the way of the concept of whatever is out there. And the Public Lands Development Corporation will allow us, I think, to synthesize.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to restate what I'm hearing your main point to be, and then we'll have, this is the thing, is that we can't hardly hear you. It's very muffled, so I appreciate that you're saying that you're hearing heartfelt.
The corporation aims to attract private companies as joint partners in development opportunities. The state's ailing boat harbors appear to be the first in line for the supposed benefits of the PLDC.
Conceptually, the businesses down in the harbor, for example, have a very good idea of what they want to do and where they want to go. And I think we're in substantial agreement with all of that. The problem is that everything has been fractured and fragmented up to this point.
Local senators, including Malama Solomon and Gil Kahele, also praised the legislation.
Across the country. And the governor, being the leader of this Democratic Party, is going to take us there. It's a new day, and we're both aboard, and we're going to do all we can as senators and representatives.
We have 1.7 million acres of public lands that belong to the people of this great state, and 700,000 are located here on the island of Hawaii.
But as time went on, the public began to take a closer look at the agency and began to grow concerned with the manner in which the PLDC may operate.
So wake up!
Moani Keala Akaka, a former OHA trustee, was one of the first to raise a warning.
I mean, you're not, this corporation of yours, Mr. Isla, you know, it says Public Land Optimization Plan, the key exemptions from all statutes, ordinances, charter provisions, and rules of any government agency. These guys are going to be their own bosses and do what they like with our lands, lands that belong to you, your children, your grandchildren, and our future generations to come.
By the time the PLDC's chief supporter, Senator Donovan Dela Cruz, made his presentation to the Hawaii County Council later that year,
I think 24, 26 cabins, and only 6 are in operation.
Using the Mauna Kea State Park as one example, skepticism was growing.
The Public Lands Development Corporation should it get the development right from the Board of Land and Natural Resources, would be able to enter into an agreement with some type of eco-lodge company that may want to focus on marathon training, cycling training. You know, these are facilities that throughout the United States are we're talking about eco-lodging and duplicating what we already have here on Hawaii Island, where when you go to Volcanoes National Park, that's the model. Creating a National Park Service system where you have the private sector operating the facility, but still protecting the environment, using those resources to protect the asset. So that's what we want to try to do with our state parks, is duplicate a National Park Service system. Because right now, this isn't working.
Thank you for sharing
Here on the Big Island, and I'll just speak for the Big Island, not any other island, we are also concerned about making sure we don't give the store away. you know, we're very concerned about the assets that we do, that we own, that we believe we as a body hold in trust for the people, for the general public. So certainly, that's why I believe what you're saying, sir. We need to be at the table.
Now, a more informed public is beginning to mobilize.
Obviously, this is not democracy when they take away our right to have public input, when they take away the county government's input into the project.
Former Campbell Estate land manager Lloyd Haraguchi has been named executive director of the corporation. He tried to calm the crowd before the meeting began.
Some of you have looked at the exemptions and say, Jesus, you know, PLDC exempt from everything. We're exempt from land use and from zoning laws, yes. But what we are not exempt from, and let me be real clear, Chapter 343, which is the environmental impact statement, we are not exempt from that. So the process will continue for the EIS process, the environmental process. As far as the zoning is concerned, although we are exempt, let me inform you that the county oversees the zoning process, and
you're on the air.
we won't be able to just get pure exemptions from these. We need to work collaboratively with the various counties here as well as the neighbor islands to work out the zoning issues with them and approvals, because without sewer, without water, without electricity, no project will be able to take off. So I just wanted to make that real clear.
The chief concern is the intent to develop the public lands known as the ceded lands in Hawaii.
For years we've been trying to save what we can of the ceded lands. These are not the state of Hawaii's lands. They're held in trust. The state is a trustee. They're not the owner. So to make an agreement with a private corporation that exempts me from using that is taking me out of that public trust. And I believe there's an error in your thinking legally. And I think you should be very, very aware of this, because I believe you could be held in breach of trust.
Again, Moani Akaka made her opinion known.
These ceded lands, seized lands, are now under the jurisdiction of the Department of Land and Natural Resources and could be turned into hotels, parking lots, office buildings, boat harbors, subdivisions, as your rules talk about. Last year, we warned about the potential danger of PDLC, a corporation that will be exempt from zoning and environmental laws, while according to the July 31st Star Advertiser editorial, this agency includes appointees with political connections, cronyism, and backroom dealings are genuine threats in a state where land and power go hand in hand.
Others, like Sierra Club member Corey Harden, ran down the numerous development rights given to the corporation.
PLDC can take land and terminate leases. There's only one hearing with only 6 days notice at the Board of Land and Natural Resources in Honolulu properly for leases and transferring land and development rights from the state to private entities. Projects can ignore state and county land use designations, zoning ordinances, building codes, community development plans, construction standards, and other requirements. And if I understand the rules correctly, neighbors of projects can be forced to install costly underground utilities on just 30 days' notice. If they don't, state or private workers can come on their property and do the work. The neighbor gets the bill and just 30 days to pay. If they don't pay, the state requires installment payments. If these aren't made, there's a penalty, and PLDC can put a lien on the property. And you would need to hire a lawyer to contest anything.
Are you a Facebook person?
If you're near a project, you can also be forced to build and fix sidewalks.
I would like to have more communication with you. What is your name?
I'm more certain of.
If you want to say it, you don't have to.
Decisions can be made by just 2 PLDC members meeting behind closed doors. In short, PLDC seriously oversteps the bounds of government. It sells out the Aina, the culture, and the people to local and transnational corporations. PLDC should be abolished.
I posted about a 15-minute video.
Many testifiers expressed deep concern over how the PLDC will enable further geothermal development on Hawaii Island.
Specifically to develop geothermal development on public lands. The geothermal that we have already produces about 20% of the power that we have here on this island. And for that, we pay 400% more than the average. We pay the highest rates in the United States for that geothermal power. And so now you want us to subsidize and give up our lands for more of this. And basically, you know, the reason they want that is they're making money. I mean, you're making so much money. You're not going to give that up. You know, the same people that charge us these 400% more, they're telling everybody geothermal, we got to have geothermal. It's the same people ripping us off. Why would anybody believe that?
Hawaii does need energy independence. To me, energy independence does not mean some big corporation comes in here, rips up the land, puts in what makes money for them, and then charges me lots and lots of money to buy the energy back. That's not energy independence for Hawaii.
One of the early environmental studies said that a major earthquake could shear off the wells, causing a permanent evacuation zone of 8 miles diameter. It's over $1 billion in real estate value. You know what PG&E's liability insurance is? It's $25 million. So what that means is that the taxpayers would get stuck to bail out corporate interests, much like the bank bailouts that have been going on in this country. We're seeing a trend of privatization of everything. Everything is a commodity. And it's trashing the lands and sticking the taxpayers to clean up corporate messes. I second the motion that the PLDC should be abolished, not amended with rules.
Towards the end of the evening, testimony grew desperate.
What's considered minerals and resources, and how are you looking at that? Like our water resource, our fish, our timber, because we're not getting one penny from that now from the state. So you're already ripping off resources.
Public Land Development Corporation is an instrument of state-sponsored tyranny.
Rise against this. You know, this is not something to ignore. This is not something to ignore. We cannot continue as a human society ignoring these things, or we're going to be stepped all over.
As folks whose lives are intertwined with Hawaii's public lands and resources spoke out against the new corporation.
Where's Mr. Island? Yeah, he's in court. He's a big man for DNLR. Is he here? Of course not. He's saying he's garoots to come here because he can't handle the pressure. And the pressure is, this is our land. Keep it our land. Keep it free. Keep it the way we want. What do we tell our youngsters when they grow up? Oh, the people, public land development took it. But, Papa, we used to go there when we were small. I know. We all have KKs. I'm a hunter. I love to hunt. Mountain and the ocean is ours. We live surrounded by an island. You come here, take away land, we're just like in a prison. You better tell the governor every country, bring the prison back and make a bigger prison. Because you guys gonna do this, you're gonna have to put a lot of people in jail. And you're gonna support that, feed us in that jail. Because you are taking things away from the people. Hawaii, stand up and stop this. I oppose this. This is purely rip-off. Mahalo.
Hearings will continue on all islands over the next few weeks. The final hearing will be held on August 31st on Kauai.